Not a poor continent. It is, on the contrary, incredibly rich in human and material resources, but it has been neglected and exploited with a predatory approach for a long time. And I want to reverse this approach together with you, which is also a root cause of the migration crisis. We need to support Africa's development on an equal basis and put an end to illegal migration while fighting human trafficking. Africa is not.
Hi lovelies, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Belinda Verse or Belly Dirt channel. Don't forget to please subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications so that anytime I upload videos, you will be the first person to be notified. To my returning subscribers, to those people that share my videos, leave commentaries, and educate each and every one of us, you guys are the real MVP. So lovelies, I'm gonna be your today's host, and I have so many statistics to put up here, and we're gonna come out to talk about it. Alright lovelies, let's dive into today's video.
They say Africa's heart beats in the Congo, but tell me, how can a continent live if its heart is still bleeding? The Congo isn't just another African nation. It's the lungs, the rivers, the minerals, the pulse that powers us all. For over a century, the world has taken from its soil rubber, gold, diamonds, and now cobalt, the element that keeps your phone alive, your car running, your lights on. But the people who live on that land, they've paid for the world's comfort with their suffering. When Belgium's King Leopold claimed the Congo, millions died in silence, their hands severed for rubber quotas. When Patrice Lumumba dreamed of a free and united Congo, he was silenced too, because his vision threatened the balance of power. And still today, foreign hands reach deep into its earth, pulling out minerals worth billions, while the nation that owns them remains one of the poorest on earth. So when people say Africa cannot be free if the Congo is not free, it isn't just about borders or politics. It's about dignity, it's about ownership, it's about healing the heart so the body can finally rise. Until the Congo breathes freely, Africa's freedom will always be incomplete. This is the Africa you're not shown, but I'm here to show you.
And their corporations control the resources. Africa doesn't own their own wealth. It's their wealth, but they don't own it. Western companies own the mines in Africa. They extract the minerals. They set the prices. They ensure that the wealth will never benefit the people whose wealth it truly is. I mean, look at Congo today. Congo produces 70% of the world's cobalt. That's the mineral that powers your smartphone, your laptop, your electric car. Without Congolese minerals, there's no Tesla, there's no Apple, there's no Samsung. Yet the people of Congo remain among the poorest people in the world. Why? Because their wealth is not theirs. It's stolen by Western corporations, by Western companies. The system is kept in place through war. The West doesn't want a stable and independent Congo. That's why they fund proxy wars, why they support rebel groups like M23. They use other African governments like Rwanda and Uganda to do their bidding, to keep Congo weak so that the wealth remains available for plunder. Wallahi, this is a grotesque injustice. It's a grotesque injustice that disgraces the whole world. Congo is a bleeding, open, gaping wound on this earth. Understand this, Africa will never be free until Congo is free. No matter how well any individual African country does, the continent as a whole will remain wounded mortally.
The DRC is sitting on a gold mine of mineral wealth, reportedly over $20 trillion worth, from gold to diamonds to copper. But the real crown jewel? Cobalt. Over 60% of the world's cobalt reserves are in Congo. And cobalt is essential for powering the modern world. Everything from electric vehicles to smartphones to renewable energy infrastructure. It's no exaggeration to say the DRC is at the center of the global energy transition. But here's the catch. The region is unstable, and these minerals have long been a source of conflict. Since 2022, the Eastern DRC has been engulfed in violence much of it centered around these very same minerals. The Congolese government, along with some Western nations, Belgium being number one, have accused Rwanda of backing the M23 rebel group that's been terrorizing parts of eastern Congo. Rwanda has denied it, but the conflict has already killed and displaced millions. In this contest, President Tshisekedi is saying, "We can't do this alone. We need help, and we're willing to trade access to our resources for peace and stability." In the letter, he even goes as far as saying, and I quote, "It's in both our interests that American companies like Apple and Tesla buy minerals direct from source in the DRC and unlock the engine of our mineral wealth for the benefit of all the world." Mr. President, first of all, why would you ask another country to come in and unlock your mineral wealth for the benefit of the world? Why not start with for the benefit of our country? That's problem number one. Problem number two, where's your leverage in this so-called deal if you're the one practically begging? Let's be honest. With the kind of mineral wealth the DRC is sitting on, it should be the U.S. knocking on your door, making you an offer, not the other way around. And do you really believe that Trump, or any Western government for that matter, is coming to unlock your resources out of goodwill for the world? I mean, come on, Mr. President.
So ever since I was young, I have heard people say over and over that Africa is extremely endowed in terms of minerals. Some would even go as far as say that Africa is the most endowed continent in the world in terms of minerals. You know, they say that Africa's poverty isn't because Africa lacks minerals, but rather because of Western interest, of colonialism, or because of the incompetence of various African governments. You know, and so that has led to theories like the paradox of plenty or the resource curse. So the resource curse pretty much argues that countries that are rich in minerals tend to be poor exactly because of their over-reliance on those minerals, you know. But what if I told you that these fanciful claims of Africa being blessed in minerals are exaggerated? You know, if you look at it, Africa's mineral reserves, you know, are quite ordinary from a global perspective. Now, I like to reference an article titled "Africa's Fabulous Mineral Wealth That Isn't All There" by Bright Simmons. So according to this article, both in terms of production and reserves, Africa's minerals are very ordinary from a global perspective. You know, yes, we have countries like DR Congo that we readily use as an example in terms of, you know, mineral wealth. But Bright Simmons argues that in terms of minerals that are used for industrial purposes, about 100 of them globally, Africa only features strongly in about 10 of those. You know, take gold for example. You know, we like to use countries like South Africa and Ghana, you know, as examples of African countries that are extremely rich in gold. But guess what? China is the world's largest producer of gold. And yet, when we think of China, we don't typically think of China in terms of its minerals. You know, we think of China as a manufacturing hub, not in terms of minerals. The author argues that countries like China, Indonesia, India, Malaysia, and the Philippines are among the world's most wealthy nations from a natural resource perspective. He argues that both on a per square mile and per capita basis, Africa lags behind the global average in mineral production and reserves. Here's another fact. Of the top 5 metallic minerals that constitute 62% of the total value of global production, Africa is only a significant producer in one of them, which is gold. He argues that Africa has 8% of the world's copper, 4% of aluminium, 3% of iron ore, 2% of lead, and 1% of zinc. He also argues, of the few minerals that Africa is believed to hold globally significant or dominant reserves, nearly all of them are concentrated in 4 countries, which are South Africa, Angola, DR Congo, and Guinea. So think about this. Even in terms of distribution, our mineral reserves are not, should I say, evenly distributed. They are mostly concentrated in just 4 countries. So again, this myth of Africa being blessed in terms of minerals, if you crack the hard numbers, you would realize that most of it is exaggerated, and at best, most of those minerals we lay claim to are concentrated in a few countries. Now, this is probably the saddest fact that I read in the article. He argues that Norway, which is about 1/30th of Nigeria's population, produces roughly the same amount of oil Nigeria produces. Think about that. So again, from a per capita basis, Africa lags behind the global average. Now, in another article, Bright Simmons talks about the phenomenon of recycling. Industrialized countries are taking recycling very seriously. So mineral waste are being recycled. The danger of that is when these countries continue to take recycling more seriously, the demand for Africa's minerals is going to reduce. So even in those few minerals Africa has a competitive advantage, there is a danger that the world will demand less of those minerals, and that is going to impact our economy. We need to understand where Africa ranks in terms of global minerals. We need to. Otherwise, we'll continue perpetuating this myth of, Africa's fabulous mineral wealth that isn't all there, according to Bright Simmons. This is quite shocking, but let me know what you think about this.
They say African heart beats in the Congo, but how can a continent live when its heart is still bleeding? The Democratic Republic of the Congo, a country so vast, so rich in natural resources that it could power the world's industry for centuries, and yet its people live among ruins, hunger, and endless conflicts. This is not coincidence, it's design, a deliberate bleeding of a nation, a wound the world pretends not to see. Let's start with the paradox that defies the Congo. The land is overflowing with wealth: gold, diamonds, uranium, coastal, cobalt, oil, timber. Every grain of its soil holds something the modern world depends on. The phone you are holding, the laptop you type on, the electric car you praise for being green, they all run on cobalt, and 70% of the world's cobalt comes from Congo. But for the Congolese, this wealth has been nothing but a curse. What billions are made from their minerals, the people who dig them out with their bare hands earn less than $2 a day. Children crawl into dark tunnels where no adult can fix, risking death and disease, just to feed the same industries that lecture the world about sustainability. The irony is cruel. The same wound that screams "Save the planet" builds its clean energy future on the broken backs of Congolese miners. To understand Congo's pain, you must go back to the beginning of its bleeding, to King Leopold II of Belgium in 1885. During the Berlin Conference, Europe carved Africa like a cake. But Leopold didn't just want a slice, he wanted an entire feast. So he claimed the Congo as his personal property, not as a Burgundian colonial, but as his private estate. He called it the Congo Free State, free except for the people. Under Leopold's rule, an estimated 10 million Congolese were murdered, mutilated, or starved to death. Families torn apart, villages erased, hands served as punishment for felon robber quotas. The Congo became a slaughterhouse for profit. While Leopold grew rich, showing off palaces and monumentals and bruises, the people who built his empire with their blood died in silence. It was the world's first model genocide, and yet, even today, it is rarely taught. Congo's trauma was not just physical, it was psychological. It told a people that their worth would always be measured by what they could provide to others, never by who they were. Fast forward to 1960, Congo finally breaks free from Belgian rule. The people are escalating. At last, they believe freedom has come. Enter Patrice Lumumba, young, brilliant, fearless, a man who dared to dream of a united Congo, owned and led by Congolese hands. In his first speech as Prime Minister, Lumumba said, "We are no longer your monkeys." Those words echo across the world. To Africans, he was a hero. To the West, he was a threat. Because Lumumba refused to be a puppet. He wanted Congo's resources to serve its own people, not foreign corporations. He wanted real independence and not a flag change with the same chains underneath. So within most of Congo's independence, Western intelligence agency began plotting his removal. The CIA labeled him dangerous. Belungun called him unstable. The United Nations looked away. But by January 1961, Patrice Lumumba was captured, beaten, and executed. His body dissolved in acid, his remains scattered so his memory could never unite his people again. But you cannot kill an idea. Lumumba's ghost still walks in Congo. Every time a miner dies in silence, every time a foreigner company signs another secret contract, every time a child digs for cobalt with his bare hands. After Lumumba's death, the West needed a new face, someone loyal, controllable, and ruthless. That man was Mobutu Sese Seko, backed by the US and Belung. Mobutu ruled Congo, now renamed Zaire, for over 3 decades. He preached authenticity but practiced corruption. He wore leopard hats while his people starved. Billions of dollars in aid and mineral revenue disappeared into Swift bank accounts, and the West turned a blind eye because Mobutu was their man. He kept communists out, he kept contracts open, and in return, they kept him in power. This was the pattern they would defy African for decades. Any African leader who puts his people first is overthrown. Any leader who sells out is celebrated as stable. Mobutu fell in the 1990s, but by then, Congo was already ghost of itself, broken, exploited, drowning in debt. When Mobutu regime finally collapsed, the country descended into chaos. What followed is known as African World War. From 1998 to 2003, over 5 million people died, the deadliest conflict since World War II. Yet most of the world never noticed because the fighting was over minerals, and whereas when wars serve economic interests, silence becomes strategy. Armed groups, militias, and foreign armies invaded Congo's east, looting its gold, coltan, and diamonds. Neighboring countries like Rwanda and Uganda became middlemen, exporting minerals they didn't mine. Global corporations bought those minerals without asking where they came from, and the cycle continued. Congo bleeds, the world profits. Now we have entered a new era, the age of electric vehicles, AI, and green energy. And once again, Congo sits at the center of global demand. Cobalt, the metal that keeps your smartphone charged and your Tesla running, is the new diamond, the new rubber, the new reason for exploitation. In the mines of Kowezi, children as young as 6 years old work in tunnels for hours, inhaling toxic dust. They don't know where the mineral goes. They don't know that somewhere in a bright Apple store or a sleek car showroom, their suffering is powering luxury. Meanwhile, multinational companies sign billion-dollar contracts with local allies to pocket the profits and leave communities in poverty. It's colonialism without flag, extraction without accountability. We call it the free market, but in Congo, nothing is free. Every time Congo tries to raise something or someone pulls it back down. When leaders speak of nationalizing resources, they vanish. When activists expose corruption, they silenced. When journalists report the truth, they found dead. The institution meant to protect Congo often become tools of the manipulation. The IMF, the World Bank, the Western agency keep Congo in perpetual debt, lending money with one hand and demanding minerals with the others. So Congo's economy never grows, it just circulates wealth outward. Every ton of cobalt that leaves its soil is a vein drained from Africans' hearts. Behind every static is a face, a mother who buries her child after a mine collapse, a father who disappeared after protesting against a foreign company, a teenage boy who digs in darkness, dreaming of school but knowing it will never come, and yet the world scroll past their suffering, distracted by gadgets made from the same minerals that destroy their lives. We live in a world where Congo's suffering invisible is benefits someone's profit margin. But change is coming. A new generation of Africans, filmmakers, journalists, activists, and scholars are rewriting this story. They are exposing the system. They are saying Congo is not a cause. Congo is a mirror that forces us to see how comfort and cruelty coexist in our world. Technology is supposed to connect us, but if the connection depends on someone else suffering, is its progress or another form of slavery? The Congo story is African story, beauty and brutality intertwined. But it doesn't have to end this way. The same rivers that once carried ivory and rubber can carry rebirth. The same oil that witnessed blood can bosom with life, but only if the bleeding stops, if the ownership returns, only if Africans stop being the world's supplier and start being its equal. Until the Congo breathes freely, African freedom will always be incomplete because a body cannot rise while its heart still lies in chains.
And if you watched up to this extent, don't forget to please leave me your own thought in the comment section of what you think of this video. And please do not forget that we do not support any form of bullying and harassment. We are just here for educational and informative purposes. So lovelies, why not just share your thought? Subscribe to this channel if you're yet to do that, and I will see you lovelies when I upload the next one.